All right, let's just jump right in. We're unpacking the sweeping, dramatic saga of a game that has literally conquered the world. In this explainer, we're not just looking at some pieces on a board, we're tracing 15 centuries of human history, raw intellect, and conflict. So, how exactly did a 1,500-year-old simulation of war become a modern global obsession? It's a wild thought, right? How did a simple board of 64 squares become this canvas for real-world wars, geopolitical proxy battles, and massive societal shifts? Today, we're basically treating the game of chess itself as our main character on an epic hero's journey. Part 1. The Ancient War Game. Our story actually begins on the ancient battlefields of India. Back then, it wasn't just a pastime, it was a literal mirror of military strategy and royal demise. In the 6th century Gupta Empire, they called it Chaturanga, which means 4 divisions. And as it traveled along the Silk Road into Sassanid Persia in the 7th century, it evolved into Shatranj. The rules shifted, the mobility of the pieces changed, and it really absorbed the culture of the empires it touched. Take the Persian word shah for king, for example. That eventually evolved into our word checkmate, signaling that the king is totally helpless. But before the tense two-player duel that we're all familiar with became the global standard, there was Chaturanga. 4 kings, that's what the Sanskrit term translates to. It was a game that perfectly captured the chaotic alliances and tricky diplomacy of ancient South Asian warfare. And what's absolutely wild about this ancient version is how it fused deep, calculated military strategy with the completely unpredictable luck of dice rolls. Documented by the Persian scholar al-Biruni back in the 11th century, you'd have players forming alliances, moving these beautifully carved ivory pieces representing elephants, cavalry, chariots, and infantry. Plus, unlike modern chess, a king could just be captured and eliminated outright on the spot. No checkmate required. It was this thrilling, highly social staple in Indian courts. Part 2. The Rise of Champions. So as the game modernized in European coffee houses and royal courts, they completely ditched the dice. Strategic calculation finally trumped pure chance, and that gave birth to the era of formal competitive play and these legendary titans of the board. Enter Paul Morphy in the 1850s. This brilliant American shows up and just completely dominates. He travels to Europe, effortlessly crushes the world's absolute best players, including the German master Adolf Anderssen. His accuracy was so profound that later champions like Bobby Fischer argued Morphy was decades, maybe even a full century ahead of his time. By the late 19th century, we see the very first official World Chess Championships, which established this brutal battlefield of minds. On one hand, you had Wilhelm Steinitz, a scientific pioneer. The guy literally wrote the constitution of modern chess strategy. He calculated with pure precision and pulled off a historic 25-game winning streak. And then you had Emanuel Lasker, a mathematician who took a totally different, much darker approach. He was a psychological warrior. He would intentionally play these tedious, grinding, uncomfortable lines specifically designed to ruthlessly wear down his opponent's mental stamina. Think about how quickly champions cycle out in modern sports, right? A few years is considered a dynasty. Well, Emanuel Lasker held the title of World Chess Champion for an astonishing 27 years. He endured these grueling marathon matches that spanned multiple cities and dragged on for months just to defend his crown against the world's best. Part 3. The Cold War Battlegrounds. By the time we hit the mid-20th century, the geopolitical landscape becomes inextricably intertwined with those 64 squares. The World Chess Championship morphed into a high-stakes proxy for global conflict. The 1972 championship in Reykjavik, Iceland, wasn't just a game. Billed as the match of the century, this was an epic, televised clash with such immense cultural weight that it literally forced millions of people to crowd into bars and living rooms around the globe just to watch 5-hour chess matches. And the absolute crucial point here is that the entire world perceived this as a massive clash of ideologies. You had Bobby Fischer, representing raw-boned American individualism, and against him was Boris Spassky, the ultimate product of the monolithic, state-sponsored Soviet chess school. Even though at its core it was simply a mental struggle between the 2 best players on Earth, to the public, it was democracy versus dictatorship. When Fischer ultimately took the win, it sent absolute shockwaves through the world. As former champion Garry Kasparov noted, it was a hugely painful, almost insulting defeat for the Soviet Union. I mean, a guy from Brooklyn single-handedly breaching the defenses of a Soviet machine that had heavily, comfortably dominated the sport since 1948. Part 4. Man versus machine. But the greatest threat to human dominance wouldn't actually come from another nation. It would come from a laboratory, marking the true dawn of the Silicon Age. In 1997, world champion Garry Kasparov sat down across from IBM's supercomputer Deep Blue. This was an era-defining watershed moment. It marked the undeniable ascension of artificial intelligence in the public eye, proving once and for all that a machine could finally outcalculate the greatest human mind on the board. Following that historic victory, Deep Blue was retired. And today, it's a poignant, almost haunting image. The two halves of the machine that conquered human intellect now stand isolated, locked away in entirely separate museums, never to be reunited. It serves as this fascinating, quiet monument to the fusion of human ingenuity and our relentless technological advancement. Part 5. The Modern Chess Revolution. So, surviving ancient wars, geopolitical proxy battles, and the daunting rise of AI, chess hasn't faded at all. Instead, it's evolved into a sleek, fast-paced digital phenomenon. Through a rapid series of transformations, a fractured chess world actually healed itself. In 2006, rival world titles were officially unified. Then, by 2013, we saw the coronation of Magnus Carlsen, dubbed the Mozart of chess. He was a prodigy who grew up training directly against chess engines, which completely set the stage for a massive, internet-fueled cultural boom. Just look at the sheer scale of this digital revolution. During the 2014 championship match between Carlsen and Vishwanathan Anand, a staggering 1 million viewers tuned in daily. 1 million! That completely shattered global audience records and proved beyond a doubt that chess was a massive spectator sport. You've probably seen it on your own social feeds, right? Charismatic internet streamers turning rapid-speed games into incredibly thrilling content. Driven by this wild synergy of online platforms, chess today has been fully embraced by a massive young generation of high schoolers. Throw in high-fidelity 3D CGI animations and advanced media, and chess has totally transitioned from a slow, deliberate art into a dynamic, visually stunning video spectacle. It's honestly more addictive and globally relevant right now than at any point in its 1,500-year history. Which really brings us to where we are today. As we look at the board and as AI and chess software continue to aggressively push the absolute limits of human capability, we have to wonder what the next era holds for this timeless game. Will human ingenuity unveil new possibilities to escape an apparent checkmate? Have we reached the absolute ceiling? Or has the ultimate strategic masterpiece yet to be played? Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep playing, and I'll catch you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to take a cinematic 1,500-year journey across ancient empires, look inside the minds of historical kings, and then fast forward straight to the modern teenage prodigies dominating the scene today. We're looking at the epic history of chess, and how, after centuries of literally wandering the globe, the game has finally, definitively come back home to India. Okay, let's dive into this because the reality of what actually happens when you sit down at a chessboard is, well, it's completely mind-blowing. Every single time you move a piece today, you're not just playing a game. You are partaking in a 1,500-year-old Indian war simulation. You're literally bringing ancient history to life right there at your fingertips. Section 1. The birth of the board. The sheer historical scale of how this board evolved is just massive. It actually all kicks off in the 6th century with the invention of a game called Chaturanga in ancient India. From there, trade and cultural exchange along the Silk Road basically carried the game outward. There's this famously enduring story of an Indian envoy presenting the game to a Persian Shah, which is just this beautiful moment of intellectual rivalry and cross-cultural exchange. By the 11th century, the game had evolved in Persia and the Islamic world into Shatranj. And then finally, by the 15th century, Renaissance Europe took the game and completely supercharged it. They granted the queen immense power and gave the bishop its long-range diagonal attack, which basically birthed the fast-paced, dynamic modern chess we know today. And this brilliantly illustrates the fascinating contrast between ancient and modern play. Back in ancient India, right alongside the two-player Chaturanga, there was this highly popular four-player variant called Chaturaji, which literally translates to four kings. Now, ancient Chaturaji involved four-player alliances, and it was heavily driven by the chaotic, total unpredictability of dice rolls. Plus, kings could be captured and immediately eliminated. Compare that chaotic energy to the cold, deterministic, zero-luck calculation of modern chess. What we play today is a strictly two-player strategy game that ends only in checkmate, no dice involved. You know, when the Persian scholar al-Biruni documented Chaturanga way back in 1030 CE, he noted something amazing. The ivory pieces perfectly mirrored the actual militaristic divisions of an ancient Indian army. So you had the Raja acting as the king, the Gaja representing the elephants, Ashva for the cavalry or horses, Ratha for the chariots, and Padati representing the foot soldiers or the infantry pawns. It was quite literally a battlefield right there on a board. Section 2. The Spark in Chennai. So how exactly did this ancient courtly entertainment transform into a modern national obsession? How did a 1,500-year-old game find its modern beating heart in the southern Indian city of Chennai? Well, the answer actually lies in an incredible chess boom that happened in the 1970s. And that boom laid the very foundation for India's current global dominance. Just listen to this quote from former world champion Viswanathan Anand. It vividly captures the atmosphere back then. He described Chennai's chess culture at the time by saying, "It was kind of the Soviet Union in miniature in India. There was this unique, really powerful cultural transmission of knowledge happening, and it was all primarily centered around the legendary Tall Chess Club in Chennai." Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the intense geopolitical rivalry of the Cold War inadvertently worked to spark a total chess revolution in Chennai. First off, you had the American Bobby Fischer defeating Boris Spassky, which spurred a massive peak in the game's popularity and aspirational interest all across India. Then, on the flip side, you had the Soviet Union actively supporting the local scene. They provided free, high-quality imported chess books, sets, and clocks, and even helped build that Tall Chess Club. And get this, the club charged just 20 rupees a month. That essentially democratized access to the absolute best chess knowledge in the world, creating a hub where the strongest players in the country could gather and share strategies in a totally pre-internet era. Section 3. The Lightning Kid's Legacy. 37. For a staggering 37 years, Viswanathan Vishy Anand reigned completely undisputed as India's top-rated chess player. I mean, think about that. It is a record of longevity and absolute dominance that is almost difficult to even comprehend. The thing is, Anand didn't just play chess. He revolutionized it for a billion people. He wasn't just India's very first Grandmaster in 1988 at just 19 years old. He went on to become a 5-time world chess champion, defending the title for over a decade against absolute legends like Kramnik, Topalov, and Gelfand. His impact was so profound that he was the first recipient of the Khel Ratna, which is India's highest sporting honor. He was also the very first sportsperson to ever be awarded the Padma Vibhushan, the country's second highest civilian award. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, Anand made chess a highly aspirational sport across the entire nation. He literally inspired a whole generation of parents to introduce their children to the game. Section 4. Gukesh, the Teenage Champion. Okay, let's move to and see how this builds. Because in September 2023, the unthinkable finally happened. A teenager named Gukesh Damaraju ended Anand's 37-year reign to become India's highest-rated player. The sheer weight of breaking a nearly 4-decade-old record held by a living national icon, honestly, it just cannot be overstated. So how did Gukesh actually pull this off? Well, it involved a fascinating, highly mechanical training approach during his childhood that went entirely against the grain of our digital era. His coach, Grandmaster Vishnu Prasanna, initiated what he called a radical experiment. Step 1. Strictly restrain Gukesh from using any computer chess engines during his formative years. Step 2. Force him to rely entirely on his own brain, developing deeply independent analytical skills and just pure human intuition. And Step 3. Only introduce him to computer engines after he had already crossed a massive 2,500 reading. In an age where kids are practically born holding smartphones, this engine-free approach honed a truly unique, incredibly resilient mind. And the results of that radical experiment? Well, they made history. At just 18 years and 195 days old, so roughly 18 and a half years old, Gukesh defeated Ding Liren. And in doing so, he became the youngest undisputed world chess champion in the entire history of the game. Absolutely incredible. Section 5. A global chess superpower. So, the crucial point is where exactly all this talent is concentrated. Just look at Tamil Nadu. This one state alone, the home of Chennai, Anand, and Gukesh, has produced over 30% of all of India's Grandmasters. That one single region has disproportionately fueled the country's massive and rapidly growing count of elite players. And the national stakes behind this modern supremacy are absolutely colossal today. Just to showcase its commitment, the government of Tamil Nadu actually stepped in and provided 75 crore rupees to host the 44th Chess Olympiad in Chennai. Following that incredible momentum, India won a historic double-team gold at the 45th Chess Olympiad in 2024. Today, multiple Indian players, including Gukesh and Arjun Eragaizi, absolutely dominate the world top 5 rankings. So you see, this isn't just about individual prodigies anymore. It's about a robust, thriving grassroots ecosystem of state associations, local academies, and digital platforms. India is now, without a doubt, the undisputed global superpower of the game. From the ancient war simulations of the Gupta Empire to the digital battlegrounds conquered by teenagers from Chennai today, this game has literally never stopped evolving. It has absorbed the cultures of Persia, the Islamic Golden Age, and Renaissance Europe, only to return to its birthplace stronger than ever before. So I'll leave you with this thought to ponder. Now that the game has finally come home, what will the next 1,500 years of chess evolution actually look like? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.